What had been a normal sitting in Parliament became an episode of political theatre unseen since the Zuma era, with reporters struggling to keep pace with the developing pandemonium as South Africans watched Gude Mantashe, once one of Ramaphosa's most important supporters, shock in peace, cabinet members, and viewers across the country by condemning the president openly in the most blunt manner possible. The tension in the build-up had been palpable. For weeks, rumors of unhappiness had swirled at the top levels of the ANC, and fissures had developed internally after charges of stolen money, backroom foreign diplomacy, and outstanding foreign legal investigations into President Ramaphosa. Party insiders reported whispered words in back rooms, minority groups convening in secret to talk about the succession question, and increasing anger that the president's office had refused to provide clear answers to mounting scandals. But nobody thought it would be Mantashe, the ANC National Chair and Mineral Resources and Energy Minister, who would finally light the powder cake, and light it he did. Speaking solidly in the chamber, Mantashe started by saying, "There comes a time when the truth can no longer be buried under loyalty," and that was all he said before the chamber fell into absolute silence, every gaze fixed on him anticipating what was going to happen next. Mantashe went on to accuse President Ramaphosa of hiding crucial financial transactions that, in his opinion, would undermine the sovereignty of the nation. He talked about a web of unauthorized foreign transactions, behind-door diplomacy with overseas finances, and policy choices purportedly dictated by non-state actors. His voice did not quiver, it was the voice of a man who knew whereof he spoke. Then came the bombshell, "Mr. President, if you can come clean to this house and to the people of South Africa, then it is my duty to say he must go." Gasps, jeers, and applause erupted in the chamber. ANC MPs shouted in shock, others were visibly shaken with hands covering mouths, and the opposition benches burst into cheers. It was evident that something significant had cracked in the ruling party. This was no longer opposition then, this was open insurrection within the ANC's highest echelons of leadership. Mantashe alleged that he had documents, emails, financial transactions, and internal memoranda indicating that Ramaphosa had secret offshore bank accounts under shell companies in Dubai and Singapore, entities which, he said, received payment for consulting fees from mining and energy firms that later enjoyed favorable regulatory treatment in South Africa. For years, there had been whispers of dark money flows and suspect donations, but never before had such claims been made so publicly by a figure as prominent as Mantashe. His charges attacked the very heart of Ramaphosa's reputation as the reformer, the individual who had pledged to restore integrity to the job left in the wake of Jacob Zuma. If true, they would not only destroy Ramaphosa's presidency but also annihilate the ANC's final argument for moral authority. Although Mantashe did not disclose the complete information live, he assured that he had given a dossier to the Speaker of Parliament and would be requesting that there be a multi-party committee to probe the president's financial activities. He also intimated something far more sinister: foreign intelligence agencies purportedly intercepting Ramaphosa's overseas communications, particularly during his hotly debated visits to Europe and the Middle East. This, argued Mantashe, constitutes a direct threat to national security as it invites international control of South Africa's highest office. If the head of state can be compromised, he cautioned, then the sovereignty of South Africa is up for sale. The chamber rang with noise, but outside the walls of Parliament, the nation itself seemed to quake. The aftermath of his address was instant and disastrous. The ANC is now waging war within itself. Sources within the party say there were emergency sessions held just hours after the address, with some top officials calling for Mantashe to be disciplined for embarrassing the party and others calling for Ramaphosa to resign before it's too late. Struggle veterans who once pledged allegiance to both men are now being compelled to take sides. Outside of Parliament, thousands went onto social media and the streets shouting, "Cyril must in Mantashe's position." Within minutes, hashtags demanding that Ramaphosa resign became trending on Twitter and Facebook, and videos of Mantashe's incendiary remarks went viral, tallying millions of views. Demonstrators marched in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban, brandishing placards and demanding answers. Even opposition parties, long critics of Mantashe, stood united. The EFF, DA, and even minor parties such as the UDM came together in one voice demanding a full-scale parliamentary investigation into Ramaphosa's offshore interests and foreign engagements. One opposition leader proclaimed, "Today is not about ideology. Today is about truth. If the president is clean, let him prove it. If not, let him go." A number of civil society groups have already made applications under the Promotion of Access to Information Act, PIA, calling for the president's financial documents to be publicly disclosed forthwith. Transparency associations contended that if the claims were unfounded, then Ramaphosa would have nothing to hide in opening his books to the public, but if he clings to secrecy, suspicion will only widen. While Ramaphosa's spokesperson offered a chilly two-sentence reply, the president categorically denies all allegations and will respond in due time. The silence is deafening, however, to most South Africans, who wanted a thorough denial or some form of assurance but got only uncertainty. In politics, silence can always say more than words. The rest of the world has not been silent either. Various diplomatic missions are said to be requesting clarification regarding the status of Ramaphosa's supposed financial entanglements, and there are reports that some embassies have fired off urgent telegrams to their respective home capitals cautioning that the stability of South Africa's leadership is now in doubt. The global investor community is becoming increasingly cautious, and some have put future dealings on ice until the matter is cleared up. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange plummeted sharply as word spread, an indication of investor apprehension. South Africa's credit rating, already precarious, is now at risk of being downgraded if political instability continues. Economists warn that even the threat of corruption at the highest levels could induce capital flight, depreciate the rand, and drive unemployment up. For average South Africans, the political tempest is not simply about corruption, it is about livelihoods, food prices, and the future of their children. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you trust Mantashe? Should Ramaphosa resign, or is this merely internal ANC conflict spilled onto the streets? Let us know.